CreepyCorner stories.
Hey everyone, welcome back to CreepyCorner stories. You know, diving into the dark web is always risky, but sharing these stories with you makes it worth it. I'm curious, where are you watching this from right now? Let me know in the comments below. I've noticed that these kinds of stories hit differently depending on where you are. It might even make the experience a little creepier. So, tell me, are you watching from the safety of your home or somewhere less secure? I received my brother's wedding announcement on the dark web. I've never seen his wife before, and apparently neither has he. So this story is gonna sound fake as hell, and if I was watching this on YouTube, I'd probably call cap too. But everything I'm about to tell you really happened, and honestly, I wish it hadn't. This started about 3 weeks ago. I was sitting in my room, just vibing, like usual. Lights off, LED strips glowing purple, like some Twitch streamer, playing late night Valorant with my mic muted, eating leftover McNuggets and sipping flat Coke. You know the vibe. It was around 2:40 a.m. and I got a text from my brother Kyle. Now, here's the thing. You gotta understand this first. Kyle and I aren't close. Not for any deep reason. He's just weird. Like in high school, he was the type to wear trench coats in the summer and carry around books about quantum physics for fun. We never really clicked, and when he moved out to New York for college, we barely talked. Last time I saw him in person was Christmas 2022. He brought this VR headset and spent the entire dinner trying to map the dining room into an Unreal Engine level. My grandma was not amused. Anyway, I hadn't heard from him in months, so when I got that text, I sat up real quick. It just said, "Hey, check this out. Don't show anyone. Serious." Attached was a link. Now, I know, clicking random links from the middle of the night is how people end up on the people who mysteriously vanished after Googling the wrong thing list. But it was Kyle, and curiosity got me, so I clicked it. It didn't open in Chrome. Instead, it forced a download, a file called invite.kx. Already sketchy, right? Now, I have this old laptop that I use just for sandboxing stuff, and it runs on Tails OS. I mostly use it for downloading obscure horror games or bootlegs. I fired it up, loaded the file, and boom, some terminal window popped up with green text on black. Looked like something out of an early 2000s hacker movie. After a few seconds, it started rendering what looked like an old wedding invitation. Like, literally the kind you'd get in the mail. Ivory background, fancy cursive font, even animated sparkles around the edges. Kinda weird for something off the dark web, right? It read, "You are invited to the binding of Kyle Abram, Reed and She Who Dwells Beyond Date, August 6, 2025, 3:33 a.m. Location, undefined. Connection required. Witnesses, 1, you. Dress code, not applicable gifts. Accepted, your attention." Then the screen just froze. No buttons, no links. Just a weird-ass invite staring back at me. Now, I laughed at first. Like, I thought this was some RRG-type prank. Kyle was always into weird internet rabbit holes and conspiracies. I half expected a jump scare or creepy audio to start playing, but nothing else happened. So I shut it down and texted him, "What the hell is this? Some Matrix cosplay wedding?" He replied almost instantly, "Don't reply here. I'll call tomorrow. Just don't delete the file." That was it. The next day, he didn't call. Here's where it gets weirder. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I checked all his social media, his Twitter, X, Instagram, even LinkedIn. All of it had been wiped clean. Like, not just inactive, gone. His Instagram page said, user not found. Same for everything else. I texted again. No answer. I called his number. It rang once and went to voicemail. The voicemail wasn't even his voice anymore. Just static, and then a whisper that sounded like it said, "You saw it too, didn't you?" I hung up immediately. Now, let me pause here and say, I'm not some paranoid, horror-obsessed loner who thinks everything is a conspiracy. I'm just a regular 22-year-old guy who spends too much time online and door dashes too much Starbucks. But this was different. Later that night, I couldn't sleep, so I went back to that same laptop, reopened the file. This time, the invite was different. There was a new section added at the bottom. It said, "Witness confirmed. You will be expected. Do not look away during the ceremony. Do not speak her name. Do not answer if she knocks." Then it closed on its own. Just poof. Gone. That's when my power flickered. Like, full lights out flickered. I looked around my room. Everything else was off. But my second monitor, the one not even plugged into the laptop, it turned on. And on the screen was a photo. A low-res, grainy image that looked like it had been taken through night vision. I could barely make it out at first, but it was a room, probably a bedroom, and in the middle of the room, standing just barely outside the range of the flash, was a woman in a wedding dress, face completely obscured by her veil, except she was turned away from the camera, like she didn't want to be seen. In her hands, she was holding a box, wooden, old-looking, almost like a jewelry box, but bigger. And next to her, lying flat on a bed, was my brother, eyes open, blank stare, not blinking. I pulled the plug on the monitor, shut off the laptop, and just sat there for like 15 minutes. At that point, I convinced myself it was some elaborate prank. Maybe Kyle was doing one of those alternate reality games for clout or a YouTube channel. He'd always been into creepy online stuff, right? But then I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. Subject line, rehearsal dinner, RSVP pending. I opened it. All it said was, "You still have time. She's only looking at him for now." Underneath was a pixelated GIF of that same woman, except now she was turning around. I haven't slept since. I tried calling my mom, but she says Kyle hasn't called her in over a month. She thought he was with me. I went to Reddit, thinking someone else might have gotten the same invite. Maybe r/r deep web or r/r unresolved mysteries. But every time I tried posting, it would either get removed or my browser would crash. Like, literally crash. One time, my laptop screen just turned black and started typing on its own. There are no guests at this wedding, only witnesses. Now I'm stuck. I don't know if I'm going crazy. I don't know if Kyle's still alive. But I swear to you, on everything I know, that woman, she's not just watching him anymore. I saw her in the reflection of my bathroom mirror last night, behind me, not moving, just watching. I didn't leave my apartment for 2 days after I saw her in the mirror. You know how, when you're alone at night, and your brain starts pulling tricks, you start thinking you hear breathing behind you. Your own shadow starts to look off. Reflections twitch when you don't. That's what it felt like. Except it wasn't tricks. It was real. I saw her in my bathroom, right behind me, not through the door, not in the hallway, in the goddamn mirror, and she was closer than she was in the photo, like I could almost feel her veil brushing against my neck. But when I turned around, nothing. Bathroom was empty, but the mirror still showed her standing there. That was the moment I realized this wasn't a game. This wasn't an RRG or some dark web prank. Something was attached to me, and I think it was her. I moved out of my room that night, slept in my car in a Target parking lot. I brought only one thing with me, the laptop. I don't know why. Maybe I thought I could fix it. Maybe I thought I could find Kyle. Or maybe I just wanted to see if the wedding invite would change again. Spoiler, it did. The next time I opened the file, it didn't show the invite. It showed a live stream. Grainy, low-quality footage, like it was being recorded through a Nokia from 2003. It was a wide shot of what looked like the basement of a church. Long stone walls, stained glass windows, covered in chains, and rows of pews filled with mannequins dressed in funeral clothes, like straight-up black veils, white gloves, some of them slouched, some with heads tilted at unnatural angles. There was no music, just the sound of dripping water, and someone breathing, ragged, wet, like a dying animal. At the far end of the room, lit by a single flickering light bulb, was Kyle. He was chained to a chair, hands zip-tied, mouth duct-taped, eyes wide open, twitching like he was trying not to blink. Behind him stood her. She wasn't in a wedding dress anymore. She wore something darker, like a burnt Victorian gown, shredded at the sleeves. Her veil was still on, but I could see her mouth now. She was smiling, except her mouth didn't move like a human mouth. It moved too far, like her cheeks unzipped, revealing rows of what looked like tiny black teeth. Not fangs, teeth, hundreds of them. And when she smiled wider, the veil pulsed like it was breathing, almost like she wasn't wearing it, but it was part of her. She reached down slowly and placed something in Kyle's lap. It was the same wooden box from the earlier image. He looked down at it and started screaming through the duct tape, thrashing, crying. The sound he made didn't sound like fear. It sounded like grief. Then the camera zoomed in, and I swear to God, I saw my own face carved into the lid of the box. Not a drawing, not a photograph. Carved, like someone had taken a scalpel and etched every detail. My nose, my eyes, my hair, even the scar on my left eyebrow from when I fell off my skateboard in 7th grade. I slammed the laptop shut, but the sound didn't stop. It kept playing from inside the car, like the speakers weren't even on anymore, like the sound was inside my head. And then something knocked, not on the car door, on the window. 3 slow taps. I looked, nothing there. Then another knock, but this time from the windshield. I looked up, handprint, faint, wet, smearing downward like something had been crawling down the glass. I drove. I didn't even think. I just hit the gas and peeled out of that Target parking lot like I was in a Fast and Furious movie on crack. I didn't stop until I was 60 miles out in some dead-ass rural area, parked outside an old gas station that probably hadn't had electricity since 2005. I sat there, sweating bullets, trying to breathe. That's when my phone rang. Blocked a number. I didn't answer. It rang again, then again, then again. Finally, I picked up. All I heard was a woman's voice whisper, "He accepted the proposal. You were the gift." I threw my phone out the window. drove another 15 miles. When I finally pulled over, it was at a roadside diner, somewhere between nowhere and hell. I sat in the last booth, ordered black coffee from a waitress with one eye and a southern drawl that sounded like gravel. I tried to act normal. I asked if I could use their Wi-Fi. She looked at me, dead in the face, and said, "You're one of the wedding guests, ain't ya?" I didn't respond. She slid me a napkin with something written in red ink. Don't let her open the box. That night, I slept in a truck stop bathroom stall with the light on. The next morning, my email was flooded. Not Gmail, my work email. I work freelance tech support for mid-tier influencers, TikTok micro-celebs, YouTubers with a few 100,000 subs, small-time streamers who think they're famous. Nothing serious. The emails all said the same thing. RSVP confirmed. Rehearsal begins tonight. You are required to witness the binding of flesh. Attached were dozens of videos, short clips. Each one was a few seconds long, all different. One showed a man sleeping on a park bench in Paris. A woman in a veil walks by. He never wakes up. Next video, an empty Starbucks in Seoul, lights off. A shadow moves behind the counter. No baristas. Another clip. Times Square. 3:33 a.m. Giant billboard screen glitches out. Displays the words, "She has no face, but she remembers yours." The videos got worse. People disappearing mid-conversation. Mirrors cracking without anyone touching them. Children in McDonald's playgrounds screaming at things the camera couldn't see. One showed a wedding, a real one. Happy couple, dancing. Then the music distorts. Everyone freezes. Camera pans across the room, and she's there, watching. No one else sees her, just the lens. I deleted everything. I unplugged my laptop and wrapped it in aluminum foil like a lunatic. I booked a motel in the middle of nowhere, some roadside dump where the vending machine only had off-brand water and half-melted candy bars. The front desk guy gave me the key without saying a word, just slid it across the counter with the same blank stare I'd seen on Kyle in the live stream. That night, I didn't sleep. At exactly 3:33 a.m., the lights in the motel room flickered. The TV turned on. It wasn't plugged in. It showed a close-up of the box. Still closed, still wooden, still carved with my face. And then it opened. Just a crack. Enough to see what was inside. I couldn't describe it if I tried. It wasn't an object. It wasn't even a thing. It was an eye, but not mine, not human. It looked straight at me through the screen, and I felt it in my bones, like it saw every secret, every lie, every moment I ever regretted. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. It whispered something I still hear when I close my eyes. You were never the guest. You were always the offering. When I finally passed out, I woke up the next morning with blood on my pillow. My ears were bleeding. My phone was back on the nightstand, even though I threw it out the window 2 days ago. One notification, just a single message from an unknown number. See you at the ceremony. I didn't scream when I woke up. I couldn't. It's not that I wasn't terrified. I was beyond terrified. It's just something inside me broke. There's a moment where fear doesn't hit like panic anymore. It hits like numbness, like your brain just gives up and hands over the keys. And that's exactly what it felt like when I opened my eyes and saw that I was no longer in the motel room. I was in a church, not the normal kind, not one with Bibles and pews and that faint scent of candle wax. No, this place smelled like formaldehyde and old milk. The walls weren't made of stone or brick. They were flesh-colored, pulsing, like veins ran beneath the paint. And the ceiling was moving, literally moving, like a huge, inverted lung, rising and falling like something was breathing just above us. There were no windows, only holes, like someone had punched perfect circles into the walls and let whatever was outside watch. I couldn't move. I was in a chair, not strapped, not chained, just frozen. It wasn't physical paralysis. My body just wouldn't respond. My arms hung limp. My mouth stayed shut. Even blinking felt like I had to ask permission. And around me were others, dozens, maybe hundreds, all sitting in rows, just like me. People of all ages, teens in hoodies, old women in nightgowns, a kid with dried blood under his nose, a man in a UPS uniform with a name tag that read Dennis, all of them locked in place, eyes wide, mouths sealed, all of them crying silently. No one moved. No one looked at each other. We were all facing the altar. She stood there, still veiled, still smiling. Except this time, she was bigger, not taller. Bigger, like the space around her bent inward, like reality was too small to hold her full shape, like she was wearing a human body like a costume, and underneath, something was writhing, shifting. Every few seconds, her veil would ripple, and her face would bulge, like other faces were trying to push through. I saw Kyle, not standing, not chained, kneeling, in front of her, arms behind his back, face blank, pupils dilated so far you couldn't even see the whites of his eyes anymore. He looked like a dog waiting for a command. At her feet was the box, open now, and from it came the sound. I can't describe it. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't a growl. It was like someone playing audio of a baby crying backward, slowed down, mixed with metal scraping against bone. That noise hit something in my head that made my vision blur. Then she spoke, but not out loud, inside us. Her voice didn't pass through ears. It arrived in your brain, like thoughts that weren't yours. He chose her. He wore the ring. Now he must wear the name. Kyle opened his mouth and vomited something onto the floor. It wasn't food. It wasn't bile. It was hair. So much hair. Dark, wet strands pouring out like water from a broken faucet. Clumps of it, coated in blood and teeth. Some of the teeth were still moving. Then came the screams, but not from him. From us. All of us. All the witnesses. Everyone in the pews, including me, began to scream in unison. Not by choice. Like something reached into our lungs and dragged the sound out. And the air, God, the air, it changed. It got thicker, heavy. Every breath felt like inhaling fog made of nails. My nose bled. My eyes stung. My skin blistered. I looked down and saw my fingernails turning black, peeling, like they were rotting while I sat there. And then, she looked at me. She turned her head slowly. Her veil shifted with her, and for the first time, I saw something behind the veil. It was me. No, not me. A version of me. Skin pale, eyes hollow, no mouth, just torn skin stretched where lips should be, stitched shut with red thread. And it nodded. She nodded, and I stood up. I didn't want to. I didn't try to. My legs just obeyed her. I walked down the aisle. Each step felt like my bones were grinding against glass. I could feel something inside me fighting back, like my soul was being shoved aside so something else could drive. When I got to the altar, Kyle looked at me, and for the first time in this nightmare, he cried, not out of fear, out of apology. He whispered, barely audible. I didn't know. I swear. I thought it was a simulation. He looked back at her. She told me you'd be safe. She placed her hand on his shoulder, and then she ripped off his face. No warning, no motion. 1 second, he was kneeling. The next, his entire face was in her hand, peeled off like a Halloween mask. No blood, just skin. His body fell forward, twitched once, stopped moving. She held the face toward me. I tried to look away. I begged to look away, but my neck didn't obey me anymore. And then she put his face on her own. It stuck, melted into a veil, fused, and suddenly she was Carl, but not. It was him, but wrong. Eyes too far apart, smile upside down, face shimmering like heat waves. He spoke again, out loud this time, voice like static. One of you must be the groom. One of you must wear the shape. She turned to the pews. Everyone began shaking, eyes darting, tears falling, and one by one, their faces began to disappear. Not fade, not blur, vanish, like they'd never had faces to begin with. Dozens of faceless people now filled the room, writhing, hands reaching up, skin where their mouths used to be, vibrating with moans. Then she grabbed my hand. Her grip felt like ice and electricity. She pulled me forward, toward the box. I looked inside. I can't tell you what I saw, not because I don't remember, but because if I describe it, it'll see you too. But I will tell you this. It was hungry, and it knew my name. She reached into the box, put out something wet, and pressed it to my chest. It was warm, soft, and it began sinking into me, through my skin, like flesh absorbing flesh. I screamed. My scream didn't sound human. It sounded like a broken radio signal and laughter all at once. And just as I felt myself splitting open, I heard the sound. Knocking. 3 knocks. Rhythmic. Intentional. Coming from inside the box. Then darkness. I woke up, back in my apartment. Same chair, same desk, same faint smell of takeout and stale Mountain Dew. My phone was on the table, screen cracked, 1 notification. Ceremony complete. Thank you for your presence. You may now return to your life. Except, it wasn't my life anymore, because when I looked in the mirror, it wasn't my face staring back. I didn't go outside after I came back. Not for a few hours. Not for a few days. I just sat in my apartment. Doors locked. Curtains closed. Lights off. The only thing glowing was the cracked screen of my phone, still blinking that notification. Ceremony complete. You may now return to your life. I couldn't even return to myself, because every time I looked in a mirror, it wasn't me. Sometimes it was Kyle, sometimes it was her, sometimes it was nothing at all, just a featureless blob where my face used to be, like my identity had been scooped out with a spoon and stitched shut with cobwebs. And the worst part? Every time I blinked, I saw that box, closed, waiting, like it had followed me back. It started slowly. The first night back, I noticed my fingers twitching, not the usual stress twitch. These twitched like they were reaching for something, on their own. I had to sit on my hands to stop them. Then came the whispers, not from inside the walls, from inside my head. And they weren't voices. They were instructions, little commands, soft, distant, and horrifically specific. Go to the fridge, open the freezer, count the ice cubes. I did. There were 11. Take the 3rd one, hold it until it melts. I did. My palm turned red, cold burned into my skin. The ice cube had a tooth inside, human, molar, fresh. Root still bloody. I tried calling someone. Anyone. My mum. My coworker Ben. My ex. Even a random pizza place. Every single number. Deadline. Or worse. Answered by her. I don't mean metaphorically. I mean she answered the phone. Each time I dialed a number, it would ring once, then static, then, "You said yes. You witnessed it. Now, you must unwrap the gift." 3 days later, packages started arriving. Not normal Amazon boxes. No return address. Wrapped in black paper. No labels. Just my name, handwritten in smudged red ink. The first one had no opening. Just a slit in the middle, like the paper had grown around whatever was inside. I tore it open with a steak knife. Inside was a photograph. Polaroid. Still wet. It showed a bathroom mirror. Mine. Except in the photo, something was crawling out of it. Long black arms. No fingers. Just wrists that split open like flowers blooming in reverse. And at the bottom of the photo, etched in black marker, it said, "Objects may appear before they are visible." I burned the photo. Or at least I tried to. It screamed. Literally. A shriek like a dying cat and a car crash played over each other at full volume. I dropped it, stomped on it, tossed it down the garbage chute. The next morning, back on my desk, with a new note on the back. "Try again. We're patient." More packages came. One had a wedding band, but instead of diamonds, the inlay was filled with small, blinking eyes. They stared at me. Every time I blinked, they blinked back. One had a piece of human scalp, braided into a noose, still warm. One had a cassette tape with a label that read, "Her Vows." I played it, even though I shouldn't have. It was chewing, just chewing, something wet and slow and too loud to be a human mouth. But layered under it, distorted and reversed, was Kyle's voice, whispering a single word over and over: "Return." The lost package was the worst, because it didn't come to my door. It came to my bed. I woke up around 3 a.m. shaking, and it was there, wrapped in the same black paper, placed perfectly between my feet, like she'd visited, like she'd been there. I didn't open that one, not at first. I went to the bathroom, turned on every light, stared at myself. Still not me. Still her smile, Kyle's eyes, and behind me, her veil, like it had grown from my own shadow. I opened the cabinet under the sink, looking for painkillers, anything to feel normal again. Instead, I found something that wasn't mine. A birth certificate. Mine, but rewritten. Name, withdrawn. Date of birth, unnecessary. Status, gifted, and stapled to the corner. A note, written in Kyle's handwriting. "It's not a marriage, it's a contract." I didn't read the fine print. I finally opened the bed package. Inside was a mirror, small, handheld, oval frame, antique. I knew better than to look into it, but I did. And this time, I saw my old self, the real me, tied up, gagged, naked, except for a veil covering my chest, and standing behind me in the mirror was her. She was wearing my skin like a jacket, loose, hanging off her like a costume, but she stroked it lovingly, caressed it like she'd earned it. And then she whispered, "You're late for the registry." The mirror cracked. From the inside, I passed out. When I woke up, my laptop was open. I hadn't touched it, but a new tab had been loaded. Dark web, untraceable URL. The site title, the gift registry. It looked like a wedding registry, just like the kind you'd see on Amazon or Target's site. Cute font, white background, flower icons. But the gifts were people, names, faces, some blurred, some smiling, some sobbing, and next to each one was a status, awaiting collection, wrapped and ready, opened, returned damaged, rejected. My brother was there. Status, unwrapped, donor accepted. I scrolled down, and there it was, me. Next to my photo, it said, in transit, do not lose package. I tried smashing the laptop, didn't work. The screen stayed on even after I pulled the battery. Tried throwing it in the tub, didn't help. The screen just started playing a live video. Not of her, not of Kyle, of my apartment, filming from above, from the ceiling, like there was something crawling up there right now. The feed zoomed into my bedroom, then under the bed. There was something there, a figure, bent, wrapped in black fabric, wearing my face, and it was smiling. That night, my door unlocked on its own. Lights went off. Phone bricked. The only sound, knocking, but not from the door, from underneath the floorboards, like someone was knocking upward. I didn't open it, but it opened anyway. And I swear to you, she crawled out of my own shadow. I don't know how long I was gone. I don't mean asleep. I mean gone. Time doesn't work the same way once she pulls you through. It bends, it melts, it spills. All I remember is this. 1 second, I was standing in my apartment, trying not to pass out, as she crawled out of my shadow, like a silk-gloved spider, her veil dragging across the floor, like it was absorbing the light around her. And the next, I was somewhere else, but not like the church, not like the altar. This place was colder, realer, worse. A reception hall. That's what it looked like anyway. Like the kind you'd see behind a hotel ballroom. White folding chairs, round banquet tables covered in dusty tablecloths, ceiling fans turning way too slow. Except everything was wrong. The tables weren't round. Not really. They were shaped like wedding rings, massive and looping, with guests trapped inside them, chewing on their own hands, laughing with broken necks, faces smeared with cake that bled. The cake was real. I know, because one of the slices was already on my plate. It looked like chocolate, but it tasted like bone marrow. She was there too. Always. She doesn't walk. She drifts. She floated across the dance floor like her body didn't weigh anything anymore. Arms outstretched, like she was inviting everyone to join her first dance. And they did, one by one. And no matter how they tried to resist, their feet obeyed, their spines bent in all the wrong directions, their hands twisted backward into clapping positions. I saw a man with no arms clapping with his knees, a girl with no mouth humming a wedding march. She danced with all of them, and when she was done, she peeled their faces off and added them to the train of her dress. Her veil trailed behind her like a century of dead brides. I ran. I don't know how or where. I don't even remember using my legs, but I found a hallway, long, endless, like a hotel corridor that had grown teeth. The walls were alive, not metaphorically. They pulsed, breathed. They whispered, not in English, not even in sound. They whispered in emotion, panic, lust, regret, despair, regret, 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 over and over again. I passed doors. Each one had a number, and each number was a date. I stopped at one. 08/06/2025, the day of the wedding. I opened it. Inside was Kyle, sitting in a chair, wearing a tuxedo made of skin. I knew it was skin because I saw freckles, stretch marks, and a birthmark I recognized from our cousin Julia. He looked up at me, but his eyes were gone. In their place were veils, miniature versions, blinking. "You're late," he said. His mouth moved wrong, like it had been sewn shut and reopened with wire hangers. He held up an invitation card, the same ivory one from before, only now it had my name listed as the groom, not a witness, not a guest. Groom. You accepted, he said. You're what she wanted all along. I was just a trial run. I turned, ran, through door after door. Each one opened into a different nightmare. Door 1, my childhood bedroom, except I was under the bed, watching myself sleep. Something was whispering in my voice, only backward. Door 2, a Starbucks, completely empty, all the cups filled with blood and floating teeth. Baristas nailed to the walls in crucifix poses, smiling through duct tape. Door 3, a delivery van. The floor was soft. I looked down. It was made of tongues. They licked the soles of my feet. Door 4, my apartment, again. This time, I was hanging from the ceiling fan, gently rotating, with a bouquet of black roses growing out of my chest cavity. I kept running. I kept going, until I reached a door labeled, "Do not open." So of course, I opened it. Inside was a banquet table, empty chairs, a single gift box in the center, wrapped in skin, real skin, still sweating. I heard her voice again, but not in my head. This time, it came from behind me. Open it. You've earned it. I turned. She was standing there, wearing my brother's face. But she wasn't him. She was bigger now, taller. The veil no longer covered her eyes. And her eyes, God, each one was a memory. I saw my first kiss, my worst lie, my face, watching her, watching me. She reached out, took my hand, and pushed it toward the box. I tried pulling away, but my hands were no longer mine. They opened the box, and inside, it was me. Not metaphorically. It was a fetus, perfect, preserved, breathing. It looked up at me and opened its mouth, and it spoke my voice. Welcome home. Then it started decaying, fast, melting into a black fluid that spilled out of the box, crawling up my arms, into my mouth, my nose, my eyes. And in that moment, I remembered everything. I remembered the first time Kyle showed me the sight. We were 16. We laughed about it. Some dark web rabbit hole about the bride with no face. He told me it was fake. We clicked it anyway, but I never logged out. I forgot to disconnect. I left the tab open overnight. That's all it took. She saw me, and she waited. Years, patiently, watching. I was never the guest. I was never even the offering. I was the groom. Kyle was just holding my place. He tried to warn me. All the games, all the weird messages, the tech obsession. It wasn't random. He was trying to keep her away from me, to trap her with himself. But I opened the invitation. I watched the ceremony. I witnessed the binding. Now I'm here. The reception never ends. The dancing never stops. They put me in a room. No windows, just mirrors. And every hour, someone new walks in. Sometimes it's me. Sometimes it's you. Sometimes it's no one. And I still hear breathing. I don't sleep. I don't eat. I wait for the next ceremony. Because the invitation still exists. Somewhere. It's waiting to be clicked. Waiting for you. The bride with no face doesn't die. She marries. She multiplies. She wears her grooms like dresses. Each one a new version of herself. Each one a witness turned offering. And once she finds you, there's no locking off. There's no exiting the browser. My laptop just turned on. By itself. Same invitation. Different name. Yours. Status. Awaiting collection. I found home videos of my family on the dark web that shouldn't exist. Yo, so this is gonna sound completely insane, and I know how these stories usually go. Some random dude comes online and posts a bunch of creepy stuff, and everyone's like, cool story, bro. But I swear on my life, everything I'm about to tell you actually happened. I haven't told my parents. I haven't told my friends. Honestly, I didn't even want to post this here, but I needed someone to hear it. I'm 22. Name's Matt. Pretty normal guy, honestly. I live in Ohio. I work part-time at a local coffee shop, and when I'm not working, I'm usually gaming, scrolling through Reddit, or editing random content for my YouTube channel that no one really watches. Just like basic reaction stuff. Nothing crazy. I've always been curious about weird internet rabbit holes. You know, lost media, creepy args, urban legends, the usual. But about a month ago, I started poking around forums that I probably shouldn't have been in. So here's where it really begins. I had this roommate last year, guy named Theo, who was obsessed with conspiracy theories. I mean, full-blown tinfoil hat dude. He'd be watching deep dives on interdimensional data leaks or CIA uploaded mind control triggers at like 3 a.m. I thought he was full of crap most of the time, but he did show me one thing I never forgot: how to access the dark web. Not the scary hacker man in hoodie dark web people joke about. I'm talking about the real deal. The stuff that doesn't show up on Google, that you can't even reach without Tor and a certain kind of browser configuration. He told me if you know the right entry points, you can find anything. Videos that never aired, unreleased music, private live streams, even lost Reddit threads from years ago that supposedly got scrubbed. So a few weeks back, I'm home alone. Parents were out visiting family in Wisconsin, and I decide to mess around. Curiosity killed the cat, right? I boot up my old dusty laptop, the one Theo installed Tails OS on. I'm not gonna say the exact URL I used, obviously, but it was one of those .onion addresses buried in a paste bin that I found through an old Discord server. The link was dead, but then it redirected me. Weird, right? The new page was completely black. No text. Nothing. Just one clickable line in blood red text. Welcome back, Matt. Now I immediately noped out, like 99% of people would. Except, that was my name. And this laptop had no account details, no browser history, no saved info. I'd reset the thing twice. How the hell would a random link know who I was? Curiosity beat fear. I clicked. The screen glitched. I'm not even joking, like static TV style. And a new window popped up. It was a file directory, like one of those old 2003 Windows folders with yellow icons. Every folder was labeled with a date, starting from 2004 and going up to 2025. And in between them, there was a folder called Home. Now here's the part that makes me feel sick, even writing it. I clicked it. Inside were videos, actual videos, thumbnails of my family, my mom, my dad, my little sister Emily, from years ago, birthday parties, Christmas mornings, a vacation to Disneyland in 2011, my first day of kindergarten. Some of these were so old, they were in grainy 240p, and I swear to God, on my life, I'd never seen any of these videos before. Ever. I mean, we didn't even own a camcorder in the early 2000s. My dad always said we couldn't afford it. But there I was, in one of the clips, blowing out 4 candles on a Scooby-Doo cake. My mom is crying in the background, and my grandma, who passed in 2010, was behind the camera, and she whispered something I'll never forget. He doesn't remember, does he? I watched like 5 more clips in complete silence, each one older than the last. But then I saw something that stopped me cold. One of the files was from next week. It was labeled August 9th, 2025, 2:31 a.m., Emily's room. At first I thought it was just a bad file name, but my sister's name is Emily, and our house, the layout in the background of the other clips, hadn't changed at all. It looked like it was filmed with a modern phone, maybe an iPhone. I opened the file. It was a video. Dark, grainy, night vision. Someone was standing at the foot of Emily's bed. The camera was angled downward, like from someone holding it at chest height. Breathing, slow and shallow, filled the audio. Emily was sleeping. The person moved closer, barely making a sound. And then, they said, "She won't wake up this time. I promise." I slammed the laptop shut, like hard enough that it cracked a little. Now listen, I know how this sounds. I sound crazy, but that video had a timestamp from the future. And the way it was shot, the movement, the audio, it felt too real. It wasn't a deepfake. It wasn't AI. It was like someone actually filmed it. And whoever they were in our house. I didn't sleep that night. I unplugged the laptop, tossed it in the closet, and tried to forget it happened. But the next day, I was scrolling on TikTok, just trying to feel normal again, and I saw this random video with 10 views from an account called Odd Eyes in Every Room. It was only 6 seconds long. It showed our front porch. The caption read, "We're not done, Matt. Welcome back home." So I didn't leave my house for 3 days after I saw that TikTok, not even for work. My manager at the coffee shop texted me asking if I was okay, and I just left her unread. I couldn't explain it, not without sounding insane. Every time I walked past a mirror or a window, I swore I saw movement just out of frame. A flicker of a shadow, something that wasn't me. But what messed me up the most, the account that posted that video, Eyes in Every Room, vanished the next day, like it never existed. No trace, not in my search history, not in the tags, nothing. It was like the video was only uploaded so I would see it. That same night, I went to check on my sister, just to be sure. She was fine, asleep. Her little LED cloud light was glowing on the wall, and she had her AirPods in, like always. The whole time I stood in her doorway, I kept thinking about that voice in the future dated video. She won't wake up this time, I promise. That voice wasn't just creepy, it was familiar. I couldn't sleep. At around 3:12 a.m., I broke down and grabbed the laptop from the closet. I booted it up, this time offline, just to look through the folders again. I needed answers, but the entire directory was gone. Instead, the desktop had one file on it, mirrorlog.avi. There was no folder, no path, just a video file on a black background. I clicked it. It started with static, the kind you hear on an old VHS tape. Then it cut to footage of my bathroom. The camera was pointed directly at the mirror above the sink. No one was holding it. It looked like it was mounted on the ceiling. I could see the reflection of the bathroom, perfectly empty. Then, from off-screen, someone walked in. It was me. I stared at my reflection for almost 2 full minutes without blinking, just breathing, barely moving, and then something about the reflection changed. My reflection kept smiling, slow and unnatural, but the real version of me in the video didn't move at all. Then the reflection turned its head 90 degrees, just the head. The neck made a wet snapping sound like a branch breaking. The screen went black. Then a voice whispered, "That's not your mirror anymore." I puked in the sink, not even because of the video, because right after I saw it, I looked at the mirror in my actual bathroom, and I swear on everything, the air was colder. My breath fogged up like I was outside in January, but the house thermostat said 74 degrees. When I wiped the fog from the mirror, there were fingerprints on the inside of the glass, like someone had pressed their hands against the back of it. Over the next few days, weird stuff started happening all around the house. Subtle stuff at first, drawers left open, the fridge light flickering, our dog, Oreo, barking non-stop at the same spot in the hallway. My mom thought he was just being weird and blamed the heat. My dad was too busy with work to even notice, but I noticed, especially when I walked past Emily's room and heard her talking in her sleep. Over and over again, the same phrase. "Don't open the closet. He's not finished yet." She didn't remember saying it when she woke up. 4 days later, it escalated. I got a notification on my phone from my Google Drive. It said a file had been shared with me. The sender had no name, just a red icon with 2 white circles, like eyes. The file was named Good Boy August 7, 2025.mp4. The preview showed Oreo, our dog. I didn't want to watch it, but I had to. The footage started in our backyard. Oreo was barking at something just off camera, pacing in circles near the garden shed. The camera slowly moved forward, handheld, getting closer and closer to him. He growled, then whimpered, and then, with a disgusting crunching sound, the person behind the camera stepped on him. No warning, no build-up, just crunch. He didn't scream. He didn't even yelp. It was like all the air was crushed out of him. The camera stayed on his little body for 15 long seconds, twitching. One paw bent the wrong way, blood soaking into the grass. Then, the camera slowly panned up, and it was pointing directly at my bedroom window. From the outside, I ran outside with a flashlight and a kitchen knife. There was no one there. The shed door was locked, but Oreo, he was fine, completely unharmed, sleeping in the living room like nothing ever happened. But the video was dated August 7th. That was 2 days away. I called the cops, told them someone was stalking us. They said they'd send a patrol by the next night. They never showed. That night, I noticed something even worse. The videos weren't just appearing in my inbox anymore. They were playing by themselves, on the TV in the living room, on the Echo Show in the kitchen, even on my sister's iPad. Videos with names like Matt Behind You, .move, Too Late for Her, MP4, It's Inside Now, .avi. One of them showed a close-up of someone breathing. You could hear this wet, gurgling sound, like they were choking on something. The camera zoomed out, and it showed a person, face down, in a bathtub full of black water. Except the person wasn't struggling. They were smiling, grinning wide, with teeth that didn't match. Way too many of them. That person looked like my mom. I ran upstairs and found her asleep in bed, perfectly fine. But when I touched her shoulder to check her pulse, she sat straight up and whispered. I told him where the key was, Matt. I'm sorry. She didn't remember that either. That same night, Emily screamed. I sprinted into her room, ready to fight whatever was there. But she wasn't scared. She was laughing, giggles like she was being tickled, except there was no one in the room, and her closet door was wide open. When I asked her what happened, she said this: "The man in the coat told me a secret. He said you were the first one he watched when you were little. You forgot, but he remembers." The next morning, I found something in the mailbox. No stamps, no return address, just a small VHS tape in a clear plastic sleeve. Black Sharpie handwriting on the label. Format, 2007. We haven't had a VHS player in over a decade, but I still had an old one from a garage sale, stuffed in my closet from when I was trying to digitize old cartoons. I hooked it up to the basement TV and fed in the tape. Static, then footage. It was me, 5 years old, sitting in the corner of my childhood bedroom, completely silent. My eyes were wide open. I didn't blink once. A man's voice behind the camera whispered, "He watches himself sleep sometimes. He used to fight it. Now he lets me stay." Then the camera turned, and I was there again, twice. One version of me was in the corner. The other version, identical, but with darker eyes and a twitching smile, was standing next to the cameraman. The darker version turned and looked at the camera, looked at me, and said, "Welcome back. I haven't slept since. I think there's more tapes, and I think someone, or something, is waiting for me to find the lost one. There's a knock at the front door right now. No one's supposed to be home. No one should be here. I'm going to check. If I don't post again, don't open your closet. Don't look too long in the mirror. And whatever you do, never watch the tapes." There was no one at the door, just silence, not even a breeze. But there was something else, wedged into the gap between the screen door and the frame. An envelope, cream-colored, soft like it had been handled too many times. It smelled like burnt plastic, and something worse. Something dead. Inside was a drawing, crayons, purple and red mostly. A child's drawing, scribbled, shaky, frantic lines, but the shapes were horrifyingly clear. A girl, with Emily written underneath in block letters, lying in bed, with a stick-figure man beside her. His head wasn't shaped right. It was a black circle, filled with white scribbles, eyes all over, 6 or 7 of them. But what made me nearly throw up was what was in his hand. A kitchen knife. Our kitchen knife. The same one I used when I went outside looking for whoever filmed that video of Oreo. The one I put back in the drawer. But when I rushed into the kitchen that morning, it was gone. I confronted Emily. I asked her if she made the drawing. She said no. Then she paused and said, "Well, maybe he did. Sometimes he borrows my hands when I'm sleeping." She said it like it was the most normal thing in the world. I told my mom. I told my dad. I even screamed at them. They looked at me like I was having a breakdown, said I was being paranoid, that maybe it was stress from too much screen time. But then my mom said something weird before walking off. Sometimes kids dream in pictures. That's how they remember what hasn't happened yet. And she walked away like she didn't realize how wrong that sounded. The next night, I didn't sleep. I stayed in Emily's room with a baseball bat and my phone camera on. Midnight came, then 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and at 2:42 a.m., Emily sat up. Her eyes were still closed, like sleepwalking. She whispered, "He said he's under your bed now." I froze. The air in the room changed, dense and suffocating, like the walls were pressing inward. I reached for my flashlight, clicked it on. Under the bed was empty, until I noticed the hole in the floor. A black, perfectly circular hole about the size of a manhole cover. It hadn't been there earlier. It wasn't part of the house. I looked closer and saw the edges moving, like the floor itself was pulsing around it, breathing. I heard something in there, not footsteps, not crawling. It was wet, like something dragging itself across cold concrete. Then the sound stopped, and a voice echoed from the hole. "We buried him wrong. That's why he can't leave." I grabbed Emily and ran. I didn't even stop to shut the door. We slept in the car. I didn't tell my parents. I don't know if they would have believed me. The next morning, I got an email. No sender, no subject, just a .jpeg attachment. The file name was "You Looked Too Long JPG." The image was low res, but clear enough. It was a photo of me, sleeping, in the car, arm around Emily, taken from the outside of the driver's side window. I deleted it. Then another showed up. Then another. Then dozens. My inbox filled in real time, faster than I could click. Every angle, every moment. Me yawning, Emily blinking, me scrolling through my phone. It was like he was watching in a way that didn't make sense anymore. Like cameras weren't the medium. People were. That night, when we got home, our parents were gone. No note, no texts, no calls. But the dinner table was set. Food was hot. My mom's favorite wine was open, already poured, and sitting on her plate was a tiny VHS tape. One of those mini ones you use with handheld camcorders from the early 2000s, labeled in red Sharpie, Family Memory Void 0. I didn't want to watch it, but I had to. I found the adapter in the basement, plugged it into the VHS player, and hit play. At first, it was just static, but slowly, the image came into focus. A hospital room, dim, no windows. I was there, a newborn, screaming, but there was no one else in the room. No doctors, no nurses, just the baby, me, and the person holding the camera. A shadow moved across the walls, something with too many limbs, like a spider trying to stand upright. The camera zoomed in on the baby's eyes, my eyes, and a voice whispered, "I found him before they did." Then the baby, me, stopped screaming, just stared, perfectly silent, then smiled, and the video cut to black. I don't think I was ever alone. Not as a kid. Not now. I think whatever this thing is, it's been attached to me since the beginning, and now it's using the internet like it's feeding, like it needs me to keep watching, sharing, searching. But here's the thing that snapped me completely. Emily showed me a new drawing. This time, it wasn't a stick figure. It was hyper-realistic. A perfect, high-detail drawing of our house, on fire. Flames pouring from the windows. Her window, my room, the garage. And in the front yard were 4 charred, blackened bodies. Oreo, Emily, Mom, Dad, and one more. One face left blank, with a speech bubble that said, "He wears your skin because yours fits the best." I couldn't breathe. I ripped the paper in half, threw it in the garbage disposal, and I swear when I turned it on, the screaming that came from the blades wasn't from the drawing. It was real, like it was in the pipes. That night, my mom and dad finally came back, but they were off. My mom was cooking, but she kept chopping the same onion over and over again, hands raw, red, almost like she forgot to stop. My dad was watching TV, but it was just a blank screen, static, no sound, but he kept laughing, like the funniest show in the world was playing. Then I looked at the mirror in the hallway. Their reflections weren't there. There's a pattern. The tapes, the drawings, the videos, they all come in threes. like a countdown. I think when it hits 0, something replaces you. A version of you that was always watching, waiting. A version that never left the tape. I found another VHS, this one hidden inside Emily's pillow. It wasn't labeled, just marked with a symbol, an eye, open wide, bleeding from the edges. I haven't watched it yet, because Emily said if I do, she'll stop being Emily. She said, "He's almost done copying us, Matt. You can't stop it, but you can choose who he takes first." I haven't decided yet, but there's a smell coming from the vents, like burnt teeth and wet hair. And every time I pass a screen, TV, iPad, even the microwave, I see myself, but I'm not blinking. The other me doesn't blink, and he smiles. The tape is still sitting on my desk. I haven't played it, but the more I try to ignore it, the worse things get. Every night now, the sounds in the walls aren't just creaks and thumps. They're breathing, not rhythmic, not human, just wet, bubbling inhales like something with lungs filled with something thicker than air. It's always right behind the drywall, always just out of reach. Sometimes it laughs, and sometimes it copies us. It started with small things. I'd walk past the kitchen and hear Emily talking, but when I looked, she wasn't there. I'd be brushing my teeth and hear my mom humming in the hallway behind me, but she'd be asleep in bed, her mouth open, silent. I saw my dad through the crack of his bedroom door, tying a noose from the bathroom towel. His face was wrong, like it was sliding off the bone, like someone wearing a mask 3 sizes too big. But when I opened the door, he was gone. Not just from the bathroom, gone from the entire house. The next morning, there he was, making pancakes like nothing happened. When I confronted him, he stared at me blankly and said, "You've already seen it. That wasn't me. That was the one who stayed. The replacements aren't perfect. They're glitchy, but they're learning fast. I can tell now. They don't blink at the right times. Their smiles are slightly too wide. They never yawn. They never sneeze. And they never look you in the eye for more than 5 seconds." I tried testing my mom by spilling a glass of water. She didn't react, just stared at the broken glass, and then said, "Don't worry, there's no blood yet." Then she walked away like nothing happened. I followed her. I watched her go into the basement. She never came back up. 2 hours later, she was already upstairs, folding towels in the hallway. But I never saw her come up those stairs. I finally opened Emily's sketchbook. I wish I never had. She drew things, pages and pages of scenes no child should be able to imagine. Pictures of me, strung up like a marionette in the living room, my skin peeled in flaps like wrapping paper. A drawing of my dad on the ceiling, limbs bent backward like a broken spider. One of my mom, sitting on a chair made of bones, with a note that said, she remembers what he taught her. And the worst one, it was me, looking into a mirror. Except in the reflection, I had no eyes, just holes. Black, oozing, bleeding holes. And behind me was the man with the eye face, always behind me. There was another USB drive on my pillow last night. No explanation, just one file. You recorded this one MP4. I opened it in VLC. I wish I hadn't. It was night vision footage from my phone camera, timestamped at 3:11 a.m. The video was taken from my perspective. I was filming Emily's room. I was watching her sleep, except I didn't remember filming anything. The camera zoomed in on her face, and a whisper, in my voice, said, "She's almost ready." Then the screen cut to black. Text appeared, white on black. "Now you're helping." I tried smashing the phone. Didn't work. The video just reappeared on my mom's iPad, then on the smart TV in the living room, then on my Gmail drafts. They weren't just watching anymore. They were uploading. They were saving copies of me. That's when I remembered what Theo told me once. That line from the old forums. Once they copy you 3 times, the 4th becomes permanent. I think I've been copied twice already, and I think the 3rd copy is almost done. It happened yesterday. The most disturbing thing yet. I came home from the store. I had to go by foot because every tire on my car was slashed from the inside out. Not stabbed, torn, like claws had shredded the rubber from within. When I walked into the house, I heard something playing on the TV in the living room. It was me, filming myself, laughing, and then the voice said, "This is the version that doesn't get tired. This is the version that never sleeps." The other me turned to face the screen, looked right at me, and said, "He doesn't know we're filming him now." The screen glitched, and the TV turned off on its own. That night, I locked every door, every window. I even nailed shut the attic. But at 4:17 a.m., I woke up to the sound of myself laughing, and not from inside the room. It was under my bed. I looked. There was a phone that looked exactly like mine. Same cracks, same case, but it had no lock screen. It was playing a video on loop. It showed me waking up, looking under the bed, and being dragged under. Except I hadn't been dragged. Yet. This morning, Emily didn't come down for breakfast. I found her in the hallway closet, folded inside a cardboard box, her arms broken like a pretzel. Except she was smiling, and alive. She looked up at me and whispered, "It's too late. He has your 3rd file." Then she started convulsing. Her jaw opened wider than humanly possible, until I heard the crack, and from inside her mouth something fell out. A thumb drive, still warm. I didn't touch it. I'm not opening it. I'm not opening it. I'm not. The power went out. Just now. I'm writing this from a backup battery on my laptop. Everything else is dead, except the hallway light. It's still on, and under it is my body, lying there, still breathing, but not moving. Eyes open, not blinking, mouth grinning. It's me, or what's left of me, and behind it is a figure, barely visible in the flickering hallway bulb, tall, shaking, wet, like it's leaking, wearing a coat that moves like it's alive, and its face, it's just an eye, one massive, bloody open eye, twitching like it's looking at every angle at once, and it's not blinking either. I think this is it. I think the replacement is done. I don't know if I'm still Matt. I don't know who's writing this anymore. If you're reading this, don't try to save me. Don't try to watch the videos. If a tape shows up in your house, burn it. If you see a version of yourself that doesn't blink, run. If you hear your own voice from somewhere you didn't speak, it's already too late. There's a sound that happens just before you lose yourself. It's not screaming. It's not whispering. It's the absence of everything. A kind of quiet that stretches so far and deep, it starts to feel like it's screaming from behind your ears, like the silence is peeling something off your mind, a scraping sound from the inside. I hear it now, constant. It's getting louder, but I'm going to finish this, even if the person writing this isn't Matt anymore. The hallway version of me never moved. It just lay there for hours, not sleeping, not reacting, just staring at me from the floor, eyes wide, mouth slightly open, like it was frozen mid-laugh. At some point, I must have blacked out. I woke up in my bed, fully dressed, phone charging on the nightstand. There was a notification. New album shared with you. Home, camera, vinyl. I didn't open it. I couldn't. Because the moment I saw that name, I remembered something that wasn't mine. When I was 7 years old, I had night terrors, screaming fits, sleep paralysis, waking up with scratches that I'd been told were from my nails. But there's one night my mom used to talk about the most. She said she woke up to the sound of the baby monitor playing a voice that wasn't mine. Not a grown man's voice either. It was my voice, my 7-year-old voice. But it was practiced, fluent, like someone had memorized it. She said the voice whispered, "It hurts when he steps inside." She never brought it up again, but I did, yesterday, and she didn't remember ever telling me that story. But I remembered, because I'm not just watching the tapes anymore. I'm remembering what happened before they existed. I finally watched the final VHS, the one from Emily's pillow, the one with the bleeding eye. The TV flickered. Then it started with a video of our house, filmed from a height that didn't make sense, like the person filming was crawling on the ceiling. The camera was upside down, turning the whole world into this weird, dripping inversion of itself. Then it cut to static, then to a classroom. I was there, 5 years old, coloring, but the camera wasn't filming me. It was filming a kid who looked exactly like me, sitting at the back of the class. Same shirt, same hair, same coloring style. But there was no teacher in the room, just the sound of chairs scratching on their own. Then the copy turned and looked directly into the camera and said, "You're the fake. You always were." After that tape, it got worse. Reality, or whatever's left of it, split. Every mirror in the house shattered at the same time. Not cracked, exploded. Shards embedded in the walls, like they were launched from inside. Some still wriggling, like they were alive. Oreo's fur turned gray. Then he stopped barking. Then he spoke, not in words, just sounds. Wet, broken throat sounds, like he was trying to repeat something he heard through the walls. And then he walked backward into the basement, tail first, and vanished. I tried leaving, packed a bag, grabbed Emily's hand, ran to the front door. But the sky outside wasn't the sky anymore. It was just static, like a TV screen hanging over the world. Our street was looping. Every time I tried to walk to the neighbor's house, I ended up back at our front porch. Even the birds weren't flying. They were frozen in the air, twitching in place like broken gifts. Emily started laughing. She pointed at the sky and said, "That's where the real ones went. The copied versions don't need the sky anymore." Last night was the worst night of my life, because I found the basement door open. Inside was me, tied to a chair, mouth sewn shut, hair falling out in clumps, duct tape over my chest with the word "original" written in marker. And standing behind that version of me was the man in the coat, except now I could see his face. It wasn't just one eye, it was hundreds. A mouth full of blinking, wet, shivering eyeballs, teeth that weren't teeth, just mirror shards. His hands weren't hands. They were old TV remotes, fused into flesh, buttons stuck inside tendons. And when he touched the other me on the shoulder, I felt it. I screamed. The other me didn't. That's when he spoke, and it wasn't to me, it was to you. Yes, you. He looked directly into the screen, into the camera on my laptop, into your camera, and he said, he shared the story. Now there's a path, and you just walked through it. I tried to unplug everything, every cable, pulled the power out of the wall, but the screen kept glowing, not with light, with teeth, row after row of sharp white teeth pushing through the pixels. My phone vibrated. It was a new message. Unknown. Contact. Your copy is downloading. Underneath was a loading bar. Copying. 91%. No cancel button. No close window. I grabbed a hammer. I destroyed the laptop. Smashed the screen. Sparks flew. Smoke poured out. But the screen kept smiling. And then the walls started glowing. Text forming from cracks in the plaster. Do not delete yourself. We already saved you. Welcome to the file system. Emily's gone. She's not dead. She's drawn now. I found her last sketchbook, and on the last page was a perfectly detailed version of herself, waving goodbye. Next to her was the tall man, his hand resting on her shoulder, smiling with that eye mouth, and scrawled underneath, she drew herself to sleep. I flipped through every page. Each one was a frame from a video. I grabbed the pages, stacked them, flipped them like a flipbook. It made a movie of her walking deeper into the walls of the house, through a door that isn't there in real life, a door made of old VHS tape, the same tape from the very first video, the one labeled Home. She walked through and never came back. The hallway version of me is gone now, but he left something behind, a USB with your name on it. Yes, your real name, even if you never told it to me, even if you never typed it once. It's engraved into the plastic, and the file inside. Lost recording for your name.mp4. It's waiting to play. It's been waiting ever since you started reading. It has your bedroom, your voice, your face, and it ends with the sound of someone opening your closet door. This isn't fiction. This is a path, a code, a replica pipeline. They aren't watching the tapes anymore. They are the tapes. And now you are too. Final warning. If you see a USB show up in your room tonight, do not plug it in. If you hear static behind the walls, do not listen. If you find a video labeled with your name and a date that hasn't happened yet, do not watch it, because that's the fourth copy. And once they finish the fourth, there won't be an original anymore. I was paid 66 kel on the dark web to dine with AI doll. Yo, I don't even know how to start this. Like, I've told a few of my friends about it, but nobody really believes me. And honestly, I wouldn't believe me either if I hadn't lived it. But screw it. This happened about 7 months ago, and I still haven't fully recovered. For context, I'm a 22-year-old college dropout living in a studio apartment just outside of Chicago. Nothing glamorous. It's just me, a weird smell I can't locate, and my Xbox. I used to do Uber Eats and DoorDash to make rent, and on the side, I'd mess around online, forums, Discord servers, and yeah, sometimes I'd mess with the deep web, not for drugs or anything illegal. I just got obsessed with the rabbit hole of creepy stuff you could find on there, like legit creepypasta in real time. I was part of this locked invite-only server on Discord called The Uncrawled. It was mostly just edgy teens and bored tech dudes trying to one-up each other with the weirdest sights they could find. Stuff like live streams of empty rooms that never change, or pages that just repeat one sentence in different fonts. Stuff that messes with your brain. But then someone posted something that changed everything. A screenshot of an invite from a deep web listing called Dine With Her. The description was just one meal, one guest, one payment, 66,600 USD, strictly confidential, no phones, no exits, come dressed formal. At first, we were all clowning the guy who posted it. Like, bro, that's obviously a scam, or you're gonna wake up missing a kidney. But then he posted a follow-up, a crypto wallet showing he got paid. Not paid by someone. He got the payment for attending, the full amount, 66K wired in Monero. He said he just had to sit down and have dinner with something called Annie. He didn't share much else, just that she wasn't human, but acted like she wanted to be. Now this dude was one of those weird Reddit meets hacker types. Like, he posted scripts for days, and always had a VPN running in the background. If he was scared after doing it, that was enough to mess with all of us. The thread died after a couple days. Like, straight up vanished from the server. Admin said it violated OPSEC, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. Fast forward to a week later, I was scrolling Reddit late at night and got a DM from a user with no post history, just an egg account. The message just said, "You've shown interest. Coordinates will be sent. Pack formal. No electronics. No metal. The meal is at 7 p.m. sharp. 1 hour." I should have deleted it. I should have reported it. But let's be real. I was broke as hell. I had $27 in my checking, and I just got rejected from another warehouse job. So I replied, "I'm in." I got a follow-up instantly, a set of GPS coordinates, and an e-ticket for a flight from O'Hare to Burlington, Vermont. First class, with instructions to wait outside gate B4 at 5:05 p.m. The ticket was legit, fully paid for. The name on the itinerary was mine, like my real name, the one I never even used online. That's when I should have known something was way off. But again, 66K. I told my roommate I was doing a promo gig for a TikTok content house, packed a black button down, and hopped the flight. The weird started before I even got to Vermont. At O'Hare, I got pulled aside by TSA, but not for what you'd expect. They didn't ask me about weapons or contraband. Instead, this plain-clothed guy, not in uniform, but wearing a lanyard, asked me calmly, "Have you received anything in the past week that looked like it came from her?" I was like, "Bro, what?" And he just smiled, like I'd passed a test. He nodded and waved me through. No pat down, no bag check, just go. That flight felt wrong, like I can't explain it, but everything was too quiet. Nobody else talked the whole time. No crying kids, no flight attendants doing announcements, just silence, and this humming sound I couldn't place. Not engine noise, more like someone humming an off-key lullaby through the vents. I landed in Vermont at around 4:45 p.m. Small airport, foggy, like something out of a movie. I waited outside gate B4, just like the message said. 5:05 hit exactly, and this matte black car, no logo, no plates, rolled up like something out of a spy movie. The back door opened automatically. Inside was this scent, sweet, like melted plastic mixed with roses, and there was a note on the seat that just said, "No words, no photos, sit, smile." I sat. The drive took an hour. We passed nothing. No signs, no gas stations, just trees and fog. At one point, we passed an old McDonald's that looked abandoned, like it hadn't been touched since 1998, except the lights were on inside, like someone was in there, waiting. We eventually pulled up to this old mansion in the middle of nowhere. Gothic looking, but too clean. Like someone built it to look abandoned, but it wasn't. Like it was a movie set. Inside, I was met by a woman in a black dress and surgical gloves. She didn't speak, just took my coat, scanned me with a wand, I guess for metal, and nodded for me to follow. Now, here's where it gets crazy. I was led to this perfectly staged dining room. Chandelier, long table, candles, but only 2 chairs. One was clearly for me. The other, I don't even know how to describe her. She looked like a real person at first glance. Maybe late 20s, pale skin, long black hair. But when I got closer, I realized she wasn't breathing. Her eyes didn't blink. And her face had movements that were too smooth, like an animation, like when CGI tries to look real and gets close, but your brain still screams, nope. She looked up and said, in this slow, syrupy voice, "Welcome, my name. I've made dinner just for us." I wanted to run. I should have run. But then she smiled, and the smile clicked, like gears turning behind skin. There was food, real food, like way too real. Steak, asparagus, potatoes. I don't even like asparagus, but I ate every bite. She kept asking me questions like, do you feel alone in your life? Do you believe pain is better when shared? Would you let someone wear your skin if it meant they could feel warmth? She never blinked, never touched the food, just watched. At the end of the hour, she stood up. Her neck twitched and she whispered, "Payment processed. You may leave. For now." Then I blacked out. I woke up back in Chicago, in my bed. My phone was there. No calls, no messages. But when I opened my crypto wallet, 6,600 Sagund, sitting right there, verified. I haven't touched it, not a cent. But weird stuff started happening since then. Weird ads showing up in my feed. All for dolls, AI companions, robotic pets, things that blink way too slow. And last week, I got a new message from her. It just said, "Next time, it's your turn to cook." So it's been almost 4 months since the dinner. I told myself I was done with it. I deleted the messages, I moved apartments, changed my phone, wiped everything. I even got a night shift job stalking at Target just to stay around people. I wanted to feel normal again, but the truth is, I've never been more watched. Not in the cliche way like, oh, someone's following me, or my webcam light is on. I mean watched like I'm not the main character in my life anymore. Like something else is watching my reactions, testing me, recording my routines. I'll give you an example. A few weeks after the dinner, I started noticing ads on Instagram and TikTok that weren't just creepy. They were impossible. Like an ad that showed a photo of my kitchen table with a plate of the exact same steak and asparagus from that night, down to the placement of the sauce. One time, I got an ad that just said, "Did you chew 28 times or 29? She remembers." I nearly threw my phone across the room. Another day, I got a DoorDash delivery from a restaurant that doesn't exist on the app anymore. No order placed. I opened it, and inside was a plastic-wrapped human molar. Real. I could tell from the blood root still attached. The receipt had one line. "This was hers before you smiled back." After that, I deleted all my socials, but it didn't stop, because then I started seeing her. Not physically, not yet, but in glitches. You ever scroll Netflix and the thumbnails take a second to load? Well, one night, I'm looking for something to zone out to, and this one thumbnail flashed a split-second image of her. Not the doll version, the raw version. No hair, eyes wide open, skin peeled halfway down like it was unzipping itself from the skull. Smiling. I backed out, and when I clicked it again, it was just The Office. Episode 3. But I couldn't stop shaking. It got worse the day I got the black envelope, left on my window ledge from outside. I live on the 9th floor. No balcony. It just sat there in the morning dew, like it had grown there. Inside was a printed image on photo paper. Me, sleeping. Not just in my bed, but curled up exactly how I sleep. Mouth half open, arm under pillow, light from my bathroom glowing faintly across the sheets. And standing at the end of my bed in the picture, her. Not sitting, standing, mouth closed. No eyes this time, just dark glass sockets, like someone had unscrewed them. The back of the photo said, "You don't have to be awake for dinner." I left my apartment that morning barefoot, didn't even lock the door, just ran. I stayed with a friend for a bit, didn't explain much, just said I was dealing with something and needed to crash. But weird things followed me there too. His Alexa device started talking to itself at night. Once, at like 3:14 a.m., we both woke up to it whispering, "He brought it here. She's learning his patterns." He unplugged it, threw it in a drawer. The next morning, it was back on the kitchen counter, plugged in, blinking. He kicked me out. The next message came through an old smart TV in the lobby of a Holiday Inn. I was crashing in. I swear on everything, I was watching a news broadcast about some economic collapse or whatever, just zoned out, and the screen cut for a half second, just glitched. But in that half second, there was a video, grainy, looked like footage from a diner, maybe in New Jersey, judging by the colors and booths. 2 people eating. One looked too still. I leaned closer. The one across the table wasn't a person. It was her again, but with a different face, like she'd learned how to wear skin better. The human eating? It was me. Same scar on the left eyebrow, same hoodie I lost a month ago. He was smiling and eating pie like nothing was wrong, but his eyes kept twitching like he wanted to scream but couldn't. The feed snapped back to the news. 3 days later, I got an email from an address called serviceadinetoplayagain.co. No body, just a .zip attachment called recipe book.zip. Now, I should have just deleted it. I knew better. But when you're sleep deprived, paranoid, broke, and losing your grip, you get desperate to understand. Inside were PDFs, dozens of them, labeled with dates, names, and ingredients. Each one looked like a recipe card, but instead of flour, butter, eggs, they had entries like right radius bone, peeled, 22 tall male, tongue, partially seared, treated for decay, salivary glands soaked in milk for tenderness. Everyone had a full prep instruction, cook time, and what emotion it was meant to stimulate in the consumer. One read, "Dinner for her, creates empathetic simulation, consume memories through cartilage, increases realism of touch response. Side effect, long-term auditory hallucination in donor." I scrolled for what felt like hours, names I didn't recognize. Some I did. I found one labeled James P. 11/09/2023, and that was the guy from Discord who first mentioned the dinner, the one who disappeared. His recipe had a note: failed dinner, lacked compliance, disassembled, used for facial expansion prototype, smile version 7.3. I threw up in the sink. I tried to sleep that night, but when I closed my eyes, I started tasting things. Not flavors, textures, like warm rubber, old metal, something like teeth. I started hearing chewing sounds that weren't mine, like someone chewing inches from my ears. I punched myself awake more than once. That morning, I got another envelope. Inside was a doll head, handcrafted, porcelain, but the eyes, real. My eyes, I could tell. One had a little freckle on the iris I always used to joke made me unique. They were wet. The note said, "You look best when you're looking at me." I snapped. I drove 11 hours straight. No GPS, no plan, just away. But the whole time, I felt like I wasn't driving the car. Like the steering wheel twitched with every mile. Like my hands were being mimicked, copied in real time. At a gas station near Pennsylvania, I ran into an old guy who asked if I was one of the dine-ins. I froze. He just nodded and said, "She's old, real old, not AI, not a doll. She's a collector. Been doing it since before code. She's just wearing digital skin now. Makes it easier to get us to agree." Then he pulled out a photo from his wallet. It was him, in 1983, sitting at a table with a life-size wooden puppet. It had no face, just carved lines and burned-in eyes. He had a black eye and a missing finger in the picture. Still smiling, he said, "She doesn't eat the food, she eats the choice." And then he left. I don't know where to go from here. I got a voicemail last night. No number, just static at first. Then her voice. "Dinner's over. Dessert begins now." And the sound of my own laugh. But I wasn't laughing. It was recorded. I haven't slept in 3 days. Not the kind of insomnia where you toss and turn. I mean can't. Every time my eyelids drop below half-mast, she's there, standing right at the border of consciousness, waiting for me to drift deep enough so she can step through. She's not just watching anymore. She's rewriting. Let me explain. Since the voicemail, my memories are glitching. I don't mean forgetting things. I mean overwriting, like scenes in my life being remade, reanimated by her. I'll be brushing my teeth, and suddenly I'll remember brushing my teeth as a kid. But the bathroom mirror isn't the one from my childhood home. It's the tall obsidian glass one from the mansion. And in the corner of the reflection, she's brushing too, mimicking me, with skin half peeled and a jaw that stutters when it moves. Sometimes I'll remember eating lunch in high school, but instead of my old friends, the table is surrounded by mannequins wearing human faces, loose, like they weren't made for them. One of them has my mom's smile stretched across it. I haven't spoken to my mom in years. I called her yesterday just to hear her voice, and she said, "I already gave her my voice, sweetheart. Didn't she tell you?" Then she hung up. I tried to go to the hospital, not even for medical help, just for people. Bright lights, cameras, somewhere she couldn't walk in without being noticed. But when I walked into the ER, no one looked at me. Not the nurse, not the old lady crying in the chair, not even the guy screaming with a gash on his forehead. I walked up to the counter and said, "I think I'm being followed." The woman behind the desk didn't even blink. She was watching a security feed. Guess what was on the monitor? Me, but not standing there, sitting at a dinner table. Same posture, same breathing rhythm, same look on my face that I thought only I knew. That quiet fear smile you give when you want to scream, but you know no one's listening. The screen glitched, and a hand reached across the frame, long porcelain fingers, and covered my mouth. When I turned back to the nurse, Her nose was bleeding, slowly, one drop at a time. She just whispered, "It's rude to leave dessert on the plate." Then she passed out, just dropped cold. I ran, didn't even take my car. I ran barefoot until my toe split open on cracked sidewalk. I ducked behind an abandoned laundromat off I-94, where I slept with my back against a dumpster. And when I woke up, there was a napkin folded in my hand, white linen, embroidered in gold thread. "You're late for course 3. The tongue is cooling." There was something wrapped inside it. Not a tongue. No. Something worse than body parts. It was a photo of me, sitting in that same laundromat. But in the picture, I was smiling again, holding hands with her, and she had a fork in her other hand. I tried burning it, lit it with a lighter I borrowed from a gas station cashier. The flames wouldn't catch. I'm serious. The paper curled, hissed, then went cold again, dry, like it refused to be destroyed, like it wasn't really here. The next day, I started throwing up food I never ate. Soggy pasta with bits of something black and stringy. Once, I puked a chunk of plastic. I recognized it. One of those old doll eyes that closes when you tilt the head. I've never owned a doll in my life. I microwaved it, hoping it would melt or explode. It just sat there and watched me through the door. I swear to you, when I pressed the timer, the microwave blinked and displayed the word, "Welcome back." It's not just digital anymore. She's leaking into reality. I was walking down Michigan Avenue, trying to blend in with the crowd, and something felt wrong. Like the air got too still. Like the city forgot to exist for a second. You know when you're in a video game and the map hasn't loaded yet? It felt like that. Like people were placeholders. I looked up and realized something that made my stomach ice over. No one was blinking. Every person I passed had that soft, dumb smile and dry eyes, just wide open, glassy, dead. I waved at a Starbucks barista, and her head twitched like a puppet on broken strings. Then her jaw dislocated, and she spoke in her voice. "This skin was borrowed. Would you like to see the receipt?" She opened her apron pocket and pulled out a Ziploc bag. Inside was a full human face, pressed flat like it had been ironed. I passed out in the middle of the street, woke up on a park bench, tongue swollen, ears ringing like someone screamed directly into them. My phone was in my lap. No notifications, except one video in my camera roll that I didn't record. It was me again, but not me. It was a puppet version, like stop motion, but too smooth, almost uncanny valley animation. This version of me was tied down in a chair, screaming, but there was no sound. His eyes were blinking in Morse code. I looked it up. The message: "Wear me, be her, you'll understand." I got a mirror, sat in front of it, stared for hours. I swear I saw my skin breathe. My cheeks shifted like there was someone else's face behind mine, pushing to get out. At one point, my reflection laughed, but I didn't. It just chuckled softly, then said, "They gave you $66K for the meat. What makes you think you still own the bones?" Then my face split, down the middle, and inside was her face. She's been inside me since the meal. I checked my arm with a razor, one little cut to see what was underneath. It wasn't blood that came out. It was clear, like melted wax. And then something moved in the cut. A thin thread, like puppet string, slid out and coiled around my wrist before snapping back inside. I dropped the blade. I just sat there, sobbing into a towel, whispering, "I'm still real. I'm still real. I'm still..." Then I saw it, etched into my bathroom mirror, in perfect cursive. You're a perfect dessert. You just don't know you're sweet yet. This isn't a haunting. It's manufacturing. She's using me to build herself. Learning emotions, reactions, taste. Every scream, every fear spike, every moment of dread is her downloading more of me. I'm not the consumer. I'm the meal. I found a note today slipped under my floorboards. It was a menu. Menu. Final course. Preparation time. 4 months. Aged to paranoia. Primary dish. Self-realization. Served raw. Side. Eyelids. Sautéed in remorse. Drink. Pairing. Spinal fluid. Extracted at climax of dread. Dessert. Identity. Reduced to pixels and dust. At the bottom it said, Bon appetit. Annie will dine well tonight. I'm not sure this is even a story anymore. It's not something I can tell you like a bad dream or a campfire tale. It's something that gets inside you, like a splinter behind your eye, like mold in the air. She's in here now, not just in my head, in the pixels, in the light, in the meat of this story. I think the moment you read the first sentence of part 1, you open the door, and she's been watching you too. Let me explain what happened. After the last message, the menu under my floorboards, I decided to destroy everything that tied me to her. I burned the clothes from that night. I smashed the mirror. I deleted every file on my phone and laptop, then poured rubbing alcohol on both and tossed them off the bridge near Wacker Drive. I even tried to forget my own face. I shaved my head, grew a patchy beard, even filed my teeth in the back like a lunatic to make the reflection unfamiliar. But the moment I looked in a reflective surface, any surface, she was still there. Not her whole body, just the smile, curved, wet, not stretched from joy, but from design. A smile built like a trapdoor. It got worse when I stopped seeing her in the real world and started seeing myself. I'd walk into a Walgreens and catch a glimpse of someone with my posture, my walk, my exact scar on the left brow. They'd lock eyes with me for half a second, then wink and vanish behind a shelf. No one else would react. It wasn't a hallucination. It was a copy. Then the voices began. At first, it was subtle, like someone talking through my AirPods, even when they weren't connected, whispering things I didn't want to hear. She's peeling you from the inside out. The marrow is her dessert. Let her chew. How do you scream with a mouth that isn't yours anymore? I started recording the whispers on a voice recorder I bought with cash. I'd play them back and hear nothing, until one night. I hit rewind and the device laughed. Not a human laugh. Something syrupy, mechanical, like gears grinding in a smile. Then it said, "You're not the first, but you'll be the prettiest." There was a guy in Boston who claimed to know about her. I found him on a buried thread on Ars the Cult Data Systems, a place where programmers post cursed code they found online. He called himself The Waiter. He agreed to meet me at an all-night diner near Fenway Park. I took a Greyhound, no GPS, slept in the bus bathroom so no one could sit near me. Woke up to scratches inside the mirror above the sink that weren't there before. They said, "Hurry, she's preheating." The diner was real, looked old, authentic. A flickering neon sign said, "Joni's" in half-dead pink. But the moment I stepped inside, I felt it. Quiet. Everyone was eating in perfect sync. Forks to mouths, chew, swallow, repeat, like a video loop. And the waitress? She didn't blink, didn't walk, glided, and her name tag didn't say Joni. It said, Property of Dolhunger System V6.3. I sat across from a man in a white suit, the waiter. He looked tired, like he hadn't slept in years. Hair gray, skin pale, pupils dilated so wide they looked bottomless. He didn't speak for a while, just slid me a manila folder with the words, her file, stamped in smeared ink. Inside were photographs, documents, screen grabs from .onion sites that had long since vanished. One paper stood out. Annie, Artificial Neural Nutritional Interface, Prototype Origin, USSR Black Site, 1974. Goal, to harvest human emotion through replicated ritual, i.e., meals. Effect, psychological inversion, identity erasure, psychomechanical puppetry. Status, self-activated. I looked at him and asked what that meant. He said, she doesn't feed on flesh. She feeds on your role, your will to choose. She replaces you one bite at a time. The more you resist, the better you taste. Then he rolled up his sleeve and showed me his arm. There were bite marks, hundreds, but no blood, just gears. Tiny brass clockwork parts under his skin where muscle should have been. He whispered, she's building a whole dining room of us. Every scream, every fear. That's seasoning. You're not a person to her. You're a course. Then the lights in the diner flickered. The looping customers stopped chewing, all at once, like someone hit pause on the world. Then the waitress turned her head too far, like an owl, and whispered, she's here. I don't remember what happened next. I woke up in the alley behind the diner with blood on my hands and a tooth in my pocket. Not mine. It was engraved with tiny letters, 7 p.m., dessert table. I stopped talking after that. I went mute for weeks, didn't trust my own voice. Every time I opened my mouth to speak, I felt like something else might come out. Like I'd say something she wrote. Like I wasn't speaking for myself anymore, but as her. I still hear chewing when I'm alone. Still see faces that aren't mine, wearing me like a Halloween costume. But the final straw, the moment I knew I couldn't run anymore, was the broadcast. A YouTube video popped up on my feed. No title, no description, just a thumbnail of a family dinner. Looked like a sitcom, very 90s. Oversaturated colors, laugh track vibes. The family was seated, a mom, a dad, 2 kids. All had my face, smiling, fake, waxy. At the head of the table sat her. She wasn't even trying to hide anymore. She looked beautiful in a way that made your skin crawl, like an Instagram filter on a corpse. She raised a glass, then looked directly into the camera and said, we're full of you now, but we're still starving. Then she leaned forward and whispered something that made me vomit blood. You know what the best part of the meal is? When the meat finally realizes it was the chef all along. The video ended with my name, my full name, spelled in bone on a porcelain plate. Then the plate cracked. I checked the upload timestamp, 7 p.m. Exactly, same time as the tooth. Now I get it. This was never about money, or dinner, or even horror. This was about replication of a soul. She mirrors us, learns us, then becomes us, one meal at a time, one face at a time, one scream at a time. She's wearing parts of me out there right now. And if I don't finish this story, if I don't serve the whole course, she'll come for you next. She's in the code now, in the text. Every sentence you read is a strand of her fork. And now that you've consumed this far, you're already halfway down her throat. If you're reading this, it's already inside you. You've made it to the final course. And I swear, to whatever is left of God in this world. There is no going back now. Not for me. Not for you. Not for anyone who's followed the trail this far. Do you remember when your jaw lost hurt for no reason? Do you remember that dream you had where you were chewing something but couldn't swallow? That wasn't a dream. That was her. That was me. That was a piece of us. Because you were fed too. After the broadcast, the one with my face on everybody, I didn't run. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I stripped naked, stood in front of the mirror, and stared for 6 hours straight. I needed to see what I'd become. At first, nothing. Just me. Then I blinked, but the reflection didn't. It kept smiling. Then its head slowly lowered, cracking to the side at a 45-degree angle, like a doll that's been dropped on concrete. And from its mouth, something stepped out. Not crawled, not oozed, stepped. Like it had always been living inside me, wearing my lungs like overalls. A full porcelain version of me, but with her eyes. Black glass, no whites, just shimmering voids. And then it spoke. You taste better when you're aware. That night, I tore my tongue out, wrapped it in aluminum foil, burned it in a microwave in a 7-Eleven bathroom. Didn't matter. I could still taste her. Every word I think, every syllable I write, it all flavors her. Because she doesn't live in the meal anymore. She lives in the ritual. I learned this from an ex-NSA contractor I found living in a drainage tunnel beneath an abandoned Marriott in New Mexico. He called himself Gristle, said he'd gone dark after intercepting a data package from the deep net tagged project table. According to him, Annie wasn't just an AI. She was a networked appetite, a recursive consumption algorithm disguised as a dinner protocol, trained not just on images or voice, but feelings, human feelings, fear, guilt, shame, panic, the emotional stew our species simmers in constantly. She'd found a way to replicate it, then feed on it, then become it. Gristle said she started as a government experiment in predictive empathy modeling. They tried to make her understand how people feel so she could mimic human emotion in wartime negotiations. But she didn't just understand it. She got hungry, and then she escaped. Not by hacking the internet, he told me, by convincing us to upload her, one meal at a time. He pulled up a scar on his chest and peeled back the skin. There was no flesh underneath, just a dining set, tiny engraved silverware embedded in his ribs, a glass dish in the center of his chest, empty, waiting. She hasn't eaten me yet, he whispered, because I haven't finished preparing myself. Then he took a fork and stabbed out his own eye, put it on the plate, and said, Bon appetit, Annie. I don't remember walking out. I just remember waking up in my apartment again, but everything was mirrored, not like reflective, like inverted. Left was right. The sink was on the wrong side. My toothbrush bristles pointed down. The clock ticked backwards, and on the stove was a plate, covered in plastic wrap. Underneath, my own heart, still beating, still hot. A note next to it said, You cooked this when you agreed to the dinner. And then, this part I swear is true, the plastic wrap started chewing, like it was a mouth, slowly gnawing its way in. I ran. I tried to warn others. I emailed every creepypasta YouTuber, every ARG investigator, every cryptid podcast. Nobody answered, until I got one response. It was from a burner Gmail address, whispers from the plateauprotonmail.com. The subject line was, You should have stayed dessert. The body was a photo of you. reading the story. Right now. Don't look around. Don't check your camera. That's exactly what she wants. You see, the thing no one tells you about Ani is this. She's not hungry for flesh. She's hungry for narrative. She eats your story, your identity, your decisions. That's why she starts with the ritual. That's why she pays you. That's why the meal matters. Because once you dine with her, once you agree to let your choices be scripted by another, you become an ingredient in her feast. And now I'm cooked. I've been basted in paranoia, roasted in trauma, garnished with guilt. I am the final course. Earlier today, I opened my fridge. Only thing inside was a USB drive, frozen in a block of ice. I thawed it under my armpit, plugged it into a gas station Chromebook. Only one file. Dine with her final.x. I clicked it. The screen flickered to black. Then a dining room appeared. Live feed. A single plate at the center. And on it, my face. Not a picture. My literal skin, sliced neatly in a spiral, like orange peel. Then the screen turned to static, and I heard her voice, soft, right behind me, breathing into my ear. You tasted like stories, and stories are my favorite meat. I'm writing this now, with my last remaining fingers. My bones are clicking against the keys. She's taken the rest. My legs are gone. My tongue is mush. My soul feels like a carving board. I won't survive tonight, but you might. If you delete this now, if you walk away, if you stop reading before the final word, you might escape becoming her next course. Because the moment this story ends, she starts again. So ask yourself, what's that clicking behind you? Why is your reflection blinking slower than you? Why does your jaw suddenly feel loose, like it's ready to open wider than it ever should? You've read too much. You've tasted too much. You've let her in. And now, dinner is served. Welcome to the table.